We must go further. That was the reaction of one former Tory minister to Jeremy Hunt's budget. And clearly a 2p cut on national insurance wasn't enough for Dame Andrea Jenkins. I'm delighted to say that she joins me now. Dame Andrea, welcome to the show. Always an absolute pleasure. You gave out what you called a common sense budget on social media. It was a veritable red meat feast. Talk us through what was on your menu.
I mean, to me, we need to get money back and put our country first. And the first thing I would do would be ditch these net zero policies. I personally think it's a vanity project. I don't mind looking at different sources of energy for energy security, Martin, but I do believe in letting the markets choose, letting the public choose, and that freedom of choice. And the announcement, 390 million on green projects in the budget, I was very dismayed by. I think we need to drastically reduce international aid. Now, I say reduce, not get rid of, because if there's some catastrophe globally, where like we saw a tsunami, you've got to be prepared to chip in and help. So I think we need to drastically reduce international aid. Why the heck are we still paying money to France? They're not helping us stop the boats. I would stop that immediately. And to me, why are we putting people in hotels who get here illegally? I mean, I'm sure we'd claw billions back from this. And so I think that would be a good start. And it's about powering up our economy to upskilling the economy, make sure that we're global leaders in the STEM skills, etc. And I mean, I am pleased with, I'm a low tax conservative. So I think definitely with the Chancellor, it's a move in the right direction, Martin. But we need it to be a bit more common sense. To some, it's radical. To me, it's common sense. And I'm sure, again, to you, Martin, we have quite similar views on a lot of areas. It's more common sense politics for you, isn't it?
Yeah, well, apart from my own personal views, yesterday, Dame Andrea, we were having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails. Basically, they all agree with everything you just said. And you said here, British citizens should be prioritised in terms of housing, the thing about not giving money to friends, let's stop the boats. Why didn't we get that budget yesterday, the budget that Conservative voters seem to be crying out for?
Because we're decidedly unconservative at times at the moment. Thankfully, we've finally got low taxes. I mean, what happened in COVID, obviously the war between Russia and Ukraine, the money spent during lockdown, that was overspent. And I did say at the time, if we overspend on the public credit card, people will elect a socialist government next time. So I think that it's good that we are low tax conservatives. We saw the headlines, as every government do, whatever party, about the investment into the NHS. But I think the NHS needs reforming, Martin. We can't just put this never-ending pot of money into the NHS. I mean, is it always better healthcare outcomes? I mean, it's a postcode lottery still. I mean, my mum and my dad had appalling care before they died, but my sister in a cottage hospital, they saved her life, had amazing care. And I think that it's got too big, the NHS, and I love the matrons, the cottage hospitals, where compassionate care was at the heart of it.
Dame Andrea, it's Chris Hope here in the studio. Yes. Thank you for joining us today. Just very, very quickly, do you worry about whether the Chancellor and the Prime Minister are conservative enough? Many of the parts of the budget, you could see a Labour government pushing forward. I mean, Great British Nuclear is nearly the same as Great British Energy, and others too. I mean, do you worry there's no differentiation now between the two big parties, and you're part of one of them?
I mean, I do get that on the doorstep, Chris. People say to me, if you don't fear a Labour government, then you've got problems, haven't you, actually? We know what they're like with the public purse. We know the wokey policies. It's going to be, immigration be worse under them. And I think the fact that people don't fear a Labour government at the moment shows we're not in a good place, actually, Chris. And we need to go back to more Thatcherite, pro-business policies. I mean, we're doing pretty okay on businesses. I don't think we should be punishing the landlords like we have done over the years, personally. And for those who work hard, and like we've seen about the pensions, they should be rewarded in old age. Those who work hard should be rewarded, actually, for doing things right. And that's the kind of conservative policies I'd like to see.
Yeah, Dame Andrea, about 85% of the emails we got yesterday were from pensioners who felt like they've been shafted in this budget. It turns out that was right. 8 million OAPs today. We found out face a £1,000 hit and many more even greater. But another thing that really got them going was this £1 million to a Muslim war memorial. I would like to ask you about that. Maybe your reaction there speaks volumes. Do you think it was completely tin-eared to have mentioned that, especially in the first sentence of the budget?
I think on two levels. To me, what does a cenotaph do? Isn't it supporting? It shouldn't matter, what background, what religion somebody is. Isn't that a symbolism of coming together as a country? As everyone backed Britain to help win the war. Why do we need to spend £1 million? What a waste of blooming money. And also, what worries me actually, Martin, is we've seen people at the moment, the pro-Palestinian lobby, take to the street. We've seen what's happened in Rochdale with and who they've elected there. We've seen the awful situation with Starmer putting pressure on the speaker. What message does this send out, Martin?
Well, it
those with the loudest voices, I mean, I think fantastic. Anybody who fought in our war and is wonderful and should be honoured and respected and remembered. Because the Britain would look a lot different today if the Nazis had won, wouldn't it? However, I don't see any colour or any gender. Any religion. To me, people are people, and why do we need separate monuments? Do we want one for Christians then, for the Jewish community, for the Sikhs? It could just go on and on. Why not just have one for everybody?
Okay, Dame Andrea Jenkins, an absolute smorgasbord of common sense spoken today. Thank you very much for joining us on the show. It's always an absolute pleasure.